Hello and welcome to Side Hustle Ideas. I am Bill, the company's expert. Thank you for joining me today. It is a long weekend. It is an extra long weekend for some. For others, it's a regular week. Welcome to the weekly live stream that I do once a week where we talk about entrepreneurship and side hustles. And I love side hustles because they're a wonderful way to get into the world of entrepreneurship, to allow you to stick your toe in the water and learn the basics before you move forward so you don't have to take any financial risks or life risks. Wonderful, wonderful thing. This is episode 108, and the title of this episode is How to Bootstrap Your Business with $0 or zero money. Real strategies for starting from scratch. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. And as always, this is an interactive live stream. So if you are seeing my beautiful face and my amazing hair, the best hair on YouTube, by the way, then you should see a chat box somewhere in the vicinity of my face, depending on what device you're watching this on. Get in the chat. Let me know what you're wondering about, what you're struggling with in terms of entrepreneurship and startups and side hustles, and I will do my best to help you out. That's how we do this. So, as always, a shout out goes out to my YouTube channel members. Membership has its privileges. And also my Patreons, my super thanks donors, and to you, my viewers and participants. You guys are awesome. Thank you for being here. Okay, so let's jump right in here. How to bootstrap your business with $0. I'm going to start talking about this, and you guys can just jump in if you have questions. Hopefully you do. And we can get into it. So I suppose I better start by defining bootstrapping, just in case people don't know what that is. That bootstrapping is the idea that you're not starting a business with a ton of money, okay, with capital. Capital simply means wealth. So you're not starting a business with a ton of cash in your checking account to spend on things to get it going. Bootstrapping is starting with what you have, not having any real money to spend. So it focuses you and forces you to be lean and mean and only do the things that really matter, that result in value, rather than all the other things that are kind of nice to have, but don't really result directly in revenue or profitability, right? That's the idea. So that's what bootstrapping is. So starting with very little. Now, I'm actually a huge fan of this. Even if you had access to a lot of capital, let's say you had, rich family members or something that were going to finance you, I would still say when you're starting out to do it as if you're bootstrapping it. Do not spend a ton of money because it forces you. The number one reason is, quite frankly, because when you've never done this before, when it's your first time, honestly, you make a lot of mistakes. It's not as easy or as obvious as it seems. And so when you think, oh, I'm just going to do this and it'll work, 99% of the time, it doesn't work out like that. Now, you learn a ton, okay, and it sows the seeds of you being able to, succeed on your second, third, or fourth attempt. But usually the first time, if you've never done this before, it's not as obvious as one thinks it is. And that's universal. I don't care who you are. So that's why I'm an advocate of bootstrapping, because I have seen so many startup founders and small business owners start and, get themselves into hot water because they've spent a lot of money to get going on a certain path. And the problem is they don't want to deviate from that path because they've invested a lot in it, all these sunk costs. And it leads to some bad things. Not only does it lead to obvious, loss of capital, but it ties you to a mentality where you can't experiment, you can't deviate, you can't pivot, you have to go down a certain path, even if there's no proof so far of that path even working. It hasn't been validated. So I'm a big advocate of bootstrapping. I don't care who you are, and that's the way I recommend you enter any type of business. Really, really. Okay. So that's what it is. We've already got somebody in the chat. That's awesome. Someone says, hello, sir. I want to know how to be able to secure a job in the relevant field or start a business even if you have limited resources. Well, that's the entire subject of what we're talking about. It's not about jobs. This is a live stream about entrepreneurship, so that's what we're talking about. We're talking about starting a business if you have limited resources, and that's what bootstrapping is. So you're in the right room, put it that way. Okay, so that's what it is. Now, there's a ton of stuff you could talk about here. I don't know what you guys are particularly interested in. You could talk about, an MVP, a minimum viable product, and stuff like that. But I don't like to look at it that way. I prefer the approach where what you're going to be doing when you're bootstrapping is you're going to be leading with the marketing, leading with the sales. Okay. Now, a lot of technical entrepreneurs, a lot of introverted entrepreneurs, you're going to hate the very idea of this, but it's what you should do, because the more you avoid it, the more you fail, and then you realize you should have done this in the first place. So what it is, it's a way of validating the idea, making sure that there's a demand for it, making sure, more specifically, that you can sell it and make a profit before you start, before you spend any money or time or resources doing something, right? It's an age-old story that a lot of introverted entrepreneurs or technically minded entrepreneurs, engineer types, you're going to start by working on something, going into yourself and like creating something. You're not going to be going out to see if you could sell it. You're going to be going inwards to try and create something. And after a lot of time and effort and blood, toil, tears, and sweat, you're going to have created something that you feel, wow, this is awesome. And then you're going to try and sell it. And then you realize, oh, crap, nobody seems to want this. I have no idea how to sell it. Everything I do fails. I tell people about it, they're not interested. I tell other people about it. I try and take pictures of it. I try and display it. Nobody's interested. Therefore, nobody wants to buy it. Therefore, it doesn't make any money. Therefore, it fails. It was a money-draining exercise. What you've done, in fact, is a research project. And that's fine. You can, if you want to build something just for the sake of building something for yourself or for proving it to yourself or to anybody else that you can do it, great. You could go ahead and do that. That's nothing wrong with that. But that is not a business venture. Business implies making money. In order to make money, you have to sell it in some way, shape, or form. That's how this goes. So if that's what you're doing this for, to be in business, meaning to make money, you've got to worry about selling it. And if you knew that this thing was not going to sell and that nobody was interested, wouldn't you prefer to know that at the beginning before you invested all this time and effort into and resources, right? You could have avoided all of that, right? And instead pivoted to another idea that might work. You would be able to sell, right? That's the idea. Okay, so I advocate the approach where you're putting your sales and your marketing ahead of the operation side of things. Okay, let's talk about that. So if you're bootstrapping, a great resource today, as you guys I'm sure know, is social media, right? You're going to be doing DIY marketing. Okay, some great sort of things in there that are very effective, but they don't really cost anything or hardly anything, is influencer marketing, creating partnerships with businesses or with influencers to try and get the word out, right? Just in like one phone call or one little meeting. If you partner with a business in your community, or you partner with an influencer or a micro influencer or something like that, that can help spread the word and recommend your thing, right? Tremendously effective, especially considering how little effort it takes to do that, right? So influencer partnerships, collaborations with other businesses, incredibly useful. A rule of thumb for these things, if people don't know, is build trust first before you ask for anything. If you lead by asking for something, usually it comes to nothing. Because people don't know you, all they know is you're after their money, and it's like it doesn't really go anywhere from there, right? So wherever you're doing your marketing, any of the stuff that I'm going to be mentioning for here on out, the assumption is that you build trust first, talk to people, you interact with them, before you just ask them for whatever it is you're wanting, right? That's a rule of thumb for these things. A common thing that people are wondering, especially people that have never done this kind of thing before, this is your first time entrepreneurship thing, is, where do I find my target market? Your target market is the people that would be interested in your thing, whatever you're trying to sell, whatever you're doing. Okay, it's that a group of producers, like businesses, is called an industry. A group of customers or potential customers is called a market. Right? So that's what marketing is. It's the study of groups of customers, how customers behave, how they think, where they are, how you reach them, how you persuade them to do business with you. That's marketing, right? So that's pretty damn important. If you're going to create something and sell it, I don't care if it's software like app or something, or it's, arts and crafts, like no matter what you're doing, you're going to have a target market, the people that are into that thing, the people that have potential to buy it from you. Okay, they're in the market for it. They are looking for that kind of thing. So if they find you and they see your stuff and they think it's great and the price is right, they'll buy it from you. Right? That's the idea. So you have to find those people. That's what I mean by your target market. Right? So a lot of your early work is going to be finding your target market. Now, who would want something like this? Maybe a lot of people would, or maybe very few people would. It'd be a niche market, right? Or if you're in the US, I believe you say niche, a niche market, right? Very, very small group of select individuals that are into that thing, right? Online resources, Google Trends is really good for that. You could find if something is popular or not. You could find if people are looking for a thing or not on Google. So that's of some use. So check that out, Google Trends. If you're wanting to find your target market. Also, if you're not like a complete introvert, do stuff in real life. Go to events. Find like real gatherings of people, potential customers. Like there's communities and things like this, stuff where people gather. That exists out in the real world. You have it online in terms of social media and things like this, where you can reach those people. You also have it in the real world. And if you're doing a business in your hometown, there might be events and stuff where in one event, almost your entire target market all shows up to that one event. So you can go to that event and you can rub shoulders with these people. You can talk to them. You can find out what they are looking for, what their tastes are, what they think is cool, what they don't think is cool, etc. And then as well as do your promotion and all that kind of stuff. So that's a very real thing. Anyway, let me know if you guys have any questions. I'm doing this this is a little bit of a different topic for me. So let me know if you have any specific questions. Get in the chat. I will be happy to respond. Anyway, the bottom line for these kinds of things is to lead with the marketing, right? If you do that, you avoid so many problems. You can find if something is not really working. Like you think it's great, but you can't really get anyone else interested in it. It's good to know that at the beginning. That's what you're going to encounter, rather than taking the trouble to build the entire thing first and blowing all your money and your time and everything, and then finding out that there's a problem with it. So lead with the marketing. And specifically, where do you find your target market online? There's a lot of online communities. I mean, I'm an old guy, so a lot of younger people that are on here would probably know better than me online where you would go. But I mean, some examples are Facebook groups, right? LinkedIn groups, even subreddits. Now, I know that on Reddit, trying to sell stuff directly is frowned upon. It's against the rules in many cases. I get that. I know that. But what I'm talking about is if you come into contact with your market, okay, you can always do stuff indirectly. You could talk to people on there. You could message them through some other channel, over email or something else. You know what I mean? There's other more indirect ways of doing it directly on a subreddit, things like that. So these are examples. I mean, there's all kinds of resources online. There's Kickstarter, there's Etsy, even like things like Shopify. You put up a page and, it's like a pre-order kind of thing, right? So there's many resources like that. Somebody says, how to handle the uncertainty. Well, there's always uncertainty in this stuff. There's uncertainty in everything. If you avoid entrepreneurship completely and you just apply for jobs, you're dealing with uncertainty there. You take a job. How likely is it that job is going to work out? It's not 100%, right? I mean, there's uncertainty in everything. The way you deal with uncertainty in a lot of things is in a certain area is you understand that area. So if you're trying to get into entrepreneurship, the more you learn about how business works, the better, right? This is all business, and business is a scientific field of study. It's somewhere between an art and a science. It's like a social science. And, they've been studying it for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years, seriously. And before that, all the principles pretty much existed going back to antiquity. So it's a known thing. The knowledge is available. If you understand how business works, then it's considerably less uncertain. You know what types of things work and what things don't. And for the things that do work, what has a higher likelihood of working, what method of doing it has a higher likelihood of working, and what doesn't. Things like that, right? So, I mean, knowledge is the key, right? So that's what I would say about how you handle the uncertainty. And then it's a personal decision, So some people are tailored for entrepreneurship and other people aren't. It's not for everybody. I would say it's to people that not only have technical skills in some area, okay, so you can do something, you have like a capability. But in addition, it's to people that they're not sheep. They're not people that just follow a crowd and get all their validation by seeing that everyone else is doing the same thing, right? Like following a herd. Part of entrepreneurship is being able to go out on your own where nobody else is doing exactly what you're doing, but you have confidence in your ability to do it. From my personal experience, it feels like you really need a sense of a certain amount of rebelliousness. People that don't have any sense of rebelliousness at all end up, being in the establishment. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's a perfectly legitimate thing. But if you're going to go your own path, by definition, you have to have confidence in yourself, and you also have to be okay with going a little bit against the grain. So, for example, if you've never done this before and you tell your friends and family that you're going to do it, assuming that they themselves have never done entrepreneurship, they never started a business or anything like that, they'll probably tell you, oh, it's probably going to fail. They feel you're doing they're helping you by predicting your failure, right? Now, if you're the type of person that, like, once you hear that, you go to pieces, you take it completely to heart, you say, yeah, you're absolutely right. I probably will fail, so I should never try, right? Some people, that's how they process that information. And if that's you, then maybe this is probably not suited to you. Other people, they either kind of take it in their stride. They kind of say, okay, well, that's your opinion, but I'm pretty confident I'm going to do this. Or at least this is right for me. I don't know if I'm going to succeed or I'm going to fail, but I'm at least going to try, And then other people they thrive on the challenge. They say, oh yeah, you think I'm going to fail? Okay, well, now I'm doing it for sure, right? Just to prove you wrong, right? So all I'm saying is that if you fit into the first category where you hear like a naysayer and then you sort of take it to heart, then you may not be cut out for this. I'm not a psychologist. I don't know. This is just my opinion. But that's an element of dealing with the uncertainty. Does that make sense? Let me know if you guys have questions. I'm here just talking generally about this topic, and I'm primarily here to answer your questions. So If you ever wanted to start your own business, if you're wanting to do that for whatever reason, maybe you want to do a side hustle and add an income stream to what you're already doing, or maybe you want to work for yourself. That's your goal, to do a full-time self-employment kind of thing. Or you want to build something up. You want to hire other people and you want to find, prosperity doing that. Let me know if you have any questions. The only other thing I want to say about this is that failure is part of the journey. It's like playing sports. I don't know what sport you play. You can probably tell by my physique, I'm not a big sports type person. But if you play golf or you play soccer or you play football or whatever you play, in order to get to a win, you have to lose many times as you get better, right? And if you play the game once and you lose, and that's enough to convince you that you should never play it again, then you're probably not going to get very good at that sport, right? That's the same here. It's something in the world of business. Entrepreneurship is in business, but it has an element of creativity to it. You're doing something of your own design that you came up with. No one else in the world is doing exactly the same thing that you're doing. That's the nature of it. And so we take our best guess and then we try something. And a lot of times what we try fails. But if it's almost like applying for a job, as a lot of people know, you apply for a job. If you apply for one job and you don't get it, does that convince you I should never apply for a job ever again because, I could not get it or I won't get it? That's how some people interpret it. It really is. But most people don't interpret it that way. They say, okay, well, this time it didn't work, but next time it might. So I'm going to keep going. Either I did something wrong and I will learn what is the right thing, or I did everything right, but circumstances were out of my control and it just didn't work out. It's not that I did anything bad, just that things didn't line up properly, right? Next time, if I keep doing the right things, maybe the next opportunity will line up properly, right? So this is a bit like that, right? Failure is part of the journey. So being able to experiment, being able to pivot, these are all extremely valuable things that you need. I would argue you need to do this to succeed. It's almost like picking up a golf club for the first time, never having played golf before, and then hitting a hole in one. You really don't see that. Usually people don't get the ball into the hole. They have to work at their technique and practice and all the rest of it, right? Somebody says, just enjoying the chat, but I'm reminded of something that I saw in Apples of Gold. I liken it to being too cocky. Okay, well, I'm not familiar with that, so I can't really speak to it. But I'm glad you like what you're hearing. There are either 12 or 18 people here, depending on what little widget you believe. So get in the chat. I'm pretty much done my spiel, just talking off the top of my head. I'd like to hear from you guys. I do these so I can interact with people. So if you're here, get in the chat. Let me know what your thoughts are. Let me know what you're wondering, what you're afraid of. Let me know if you have any ideas for a side hustle that you think is a thing that you should do. I'm gonna hand the torch over to you guys, and I will respond to whatever you throw my way. In the meantime, if you want to learn business, check out that course, the $100 MBA. That's a course I put together. For what it's worth, I have an MBA, a Master's of Business Administration. It's the gold standard for understanding business. And this stuff is clarified quite a lot when you understand business, because we're doing business. So learning business really, really helps. And the thing that I found about business when they teach it to you in business school, it's really not rocket science. I feel that this information should be more freely available. And it isn't. Either there's people that have a vested interest in keeping it in a walled silo and charging you tons of money to access it, Or there's people that, give you sort of pseudoscience, kind of, it's their opinion about business, which really isn't based on anything. It's certainly not scientific. And they're doing you a disservice because you think you're learning the actual rules of business when you're not. You're just learning somebody's personal opinions about it or something. So check out that course. What I did is essentially take an entire MBA program and all the textbooks, the reading list for it, including some of the most reputable textbooks in the world that are used in business schools, like a lot of Ivy League schools in the States and other places. And, you find that these are actually available on Amazon. And if you get the version that's like 1 or 2 editions older, they're like literally $5, $10, that kind of thing. So I put together a reading list, and you can order the books and then read them yourself. And you're getting the same material that you would learn in a MBA from Harvard Business School, for example, for a tiny fraction of the price. And I provide videos, I guide you through it. I say, like, here's my take on these things. And then also here's some examples and lessons from my career where I've applied some of this knowledge and this is how it turned out. So there you go. So check that out. There's a link in the description box if you're interested in that. Best bang for the buck everywhere on how to learn business, especially if you're going to be applying it for what we're talking about here, bootstrapping your own side hustle or your own business. Someone says they told him it could not be done. With a smile, he went right to it and tacked the thing that could not be done and could not do it. Okay, well, that's good. So it's a sort of in your face kind of story, Of course, the challenge, though, is that when some people tell you something can't be done, sometimes they're right. Like if you're trying to turn lead into gold in your garage and they tell you it can't be done, you should listen. You know what I mean? The thing is, if you learn about chemistry, then you'll be able to discern between what's just cowardly naysaying versus what's actually solid advice, right? That's the key, Someone says, everything you discussed was quite productive, and the transition from one field to another requires a lot of efforts, and it would be great if you share your golden words on it or any source relevant. Quite productive, and the transition from one field to another requires a lot of efforts. Is that what you want me to talk about? The transition from one field to another? What specifically are you talking about? Are you talking about something I said about transitioning from one field to another? I don't recall saying that. Or if you're talking about going from one specific field to another specific field and you want to learn about that, let me know. Yeah, I mean, I don't know specifically what you're looking for, but I mean, I've worked across 5 industries for what that's worth. And there's a variety of ways to do it. Like, for example, management skills are one of the areas where it's kind of common to many industries, right? So if you have management skills, sometimes that enables you to jump industries. If you're like doing a type of management role in one industry, it's sometimes possible to jump and do that same management type role in another industry. It's sometimes possible to do that. Other times, networking is really, really, it really enables that. For people that are changing careers, that's how you change careers. It's almost impossible to change careers going through a recruiter. Because what's the first question out of the recruiter's mouth? It's how many years of experience, how many years have you been doing this? And then you have to say, well, 0, I'm changing careers to this. And they go, well, how could you possibly think you're qualified then? Right? That's just how recruiters think. So the way to change careers is you don't go through recruiters, you go to the hiring managers. If you've got real skills and you have a passion for doing this thing and you have some abilities, and you speak to the hiring manager who's the boss, right? That's who the hiring manager is. They're a manager who's hiring. And you have a conversation with them, like an informational interview or something like that. They can see that, you have a lot of skills, you have a lot of passion, and, they like you, they can get along with you, they could see you've got a lot of knowledge. So they will, they often can give you a chance if they have, a position to offer, right? Or some junior position to offer. They'll say, I'll give you a chance. You don't have any direct experience in this industry, but I can see, you're a highly capable person. You're a very good communicator. You're very organized. You seem to have the right idea about this industry, and you're clearly passionate. So I'll tell you what, we have like a junior position or a part-time thing. I'll give you that. You'll be like on probation. I think you might be able to do it, but let's find out. So that's another way. I mean, there's several ways of doing these things. Someone says, yeah, from one field to another, from aviation management to data science or financial management side. Yeah, well, like I would say, in a word, networking is the way to do that, right? Now, if you're an introvert, you can do a lot of networking online. That's what I talk about on my channel usually when I'm talking about job search. I don't necessarily want to get into that here because we're here to talk about entrepreneurship, but I have so many videos on that kind of stuff, and then I put the whole master thing into this course. So if you're interested in that, like, changing careers and going to a different industry, check out that course, link in the description. That's what I normally talk about. So you can find a ton of resources on my channel about that stuff. And that's where the real kit and caboodle is. It's right there. Someone says, how can a noob build a successful system as a software as a service product? I'm working on a little something, thought of giving it a try, and I put lots of time into it. I'm worried if I'm going to fail or miss a critical step. Well, I mean, huge question, huge general question. And if you just showed up now, you might have missed like all the content in this live stream so far, where I was basically talking about like how to bootstrap yourself and how to get into a business and how to do it right and all this kind of stuff. So, I mean, you might want to go back and listen to that. I don't really feel like saying everything again, but long story short is that if you're getting into entrepreneurship, you're going to do something yourself. What's actually going on here is there's two things. Number one is the technical skills to create your product or service. So in your case, if you're wanting to do a software as a service product, you're in IT, you're going to need some coding skills, developing skills, whatever you call it. And you're going to have to learn what to do if you're delivering a product, right? That's one whole world right there, okay? Now, a lot of people make the mistake of thinking like, oh, I can program, I can create a software as a service solution. Therefore, I know everything I need to know. I'm just going to go into business doing that. The problem is that you're actually in business. Business is making money, right? If you just want to create a software as a service product, by yourself, just to show that you can do it, just to put it on like your resume and say like, hey, I can do this, to show it off to people and say, look at my coding skills. You can do that. That would be a research project, right? It's not a business, it's a research project. But the moment you want to try and make money with it, now you're in the world of business. And it's hard to explain to someone who's never sort of been introduced to this before, but it's a completely different thing. See, if you're writing an app and it's a research project, you're doing it the way you want. You're saying, I want the architecture to be this. I want the the coding conventions to be this. So I'm just going to go ahead and do it. That's what I want to do, right? And I want these features, and I want this amount of testing, and all that kind of stuff. That's all driven by you, what you want to do, right? If you're creating something that's not for you, it's for other people, you're trying to sell it, the focus now gets put on them. So what you want to do takes a back seat to what do your customers or potential customers want you to do? What do they expect? Do they expect these certain features? Do they expect this level of quality? Do they expect this type of architecture? It doesn't matter what you want to do. It matters what they expect, because at the end of the day, you're going to have to try and sell this to them. And if it's not what they're wanting, sorry, they're not going to buy it. You know what I mean? So the whole sort of strategy changes, right? That's the difference between a research project and a product, right? For a successful product, you have to deliver what people are wanting. In order to do that, you need to know what they're wanting. You can't guess. So many people fail because they think they know what customers want, but they don't, right? It's a blind spot that a lot of technical people have. I'm a technical person, so I know what I'm talking about here. You know what I mean? So it's a completely different thing if you're going to write a software as a service, if you have the technical skills, but now you want to do it as a business. So the way that works is what you're going to be doing to get this off the ground successfully is you're not just going to be going into yourself and writing code by yourself and all this. You're going to be going out. You're going to find out who would buy this specifically. Where are they? How much will they pay for it? What are they expecting? What do they want? Okay. Would they prefer this or this? Would they prefer that or that? That's the kind of thing that you're going to have to find out. And you don't guess. You get data on it. There's always going to be one or two people out there that will want anything you could possibly imagine, right? So you can validate any opinion by saying, oh yeah, I know there's at least a couple of people that want this. Question is, how many of them are there? And are there enough that you could sell this to justify doing it, right? Will you make enough sales at the end of the day? You know what I mean? Okay, so if you know the operation side of things, that's great, okay? But business is more than just doing your thing and then turning around at the very end and saying you want to buy it, because it's like getting a hole-in-one in golf. It does happen, but extremely rarely. What most people are going to find is that if they take that approach, they create this thing that they want to do, and then they turn around and just try and sell it, like 99.9% of the time, it fails, because you don't know who is interested. It's not designed to their specifications. You know what I'm saying? So you have to take all this into account. So you have to learn about business, right? That's the thing. You don't have to learn about coding. I'm sure already know coding, and that's great. You have everything you need to work as a developer. But that's not what this is. Now you're in business, so it's a different thing. You have to learn how to make money directly and sell to people. Okay, so I don't want to come down too hard on you, but that's the challenge, right? You see, it's a completely different thing from just creating something. Like if you could create a painting, you know how to paint, and you paint a beautiful picture of whatever, right? And you think it's fantastic. That's awesome, But if you want to go into business, selling your paintings and so you can do painting full time, right? And then you sell your paintings, you're going to need to know who to sell them to, how to get the message across, how to convince those people that, they should buy your painting. Maybe you have to show it to them. How do you get them to see it? You know what I mean? How do you know what price they will pay? This kind of thing. So that's the business side of things, right? So hopefully that makes sense. So people who study business, they understand that side of it, right? Now, if you can combine your skills as a developer with an understanding of business, that's a fearsome combination. Okay, usually you get people that they know one side or the other, but having both is a lot more rare. And I can tell you, just the fact that I ran a small software company for a while, like 25 years ago. So totally, it has no bearing on what software companies are doing today. But like I have an engineering degree and stuff. So I mean, if so, I understand like you have the technical skills. That's great. That's a great start. If you could tack on the business side of things, which is a lot less challenging than learning the technical skills, I can tell you that much. That will really help you, and then you will know what to do. You will know what steps. You will know what's appropriate considering what you have in mind, right? So that's what I'd recommend you do. Learn business. I have a solution, but there's many other solutions out there. Whichever thing you do, learn it. And then, that combined with, I don't know if you've worked in the, like if you've worked as a developer in a software company. If you have, that's great skills. You could like take that learning with you, but you could set yourself up to be someone who's working for themselves, creating their own products. Maybe you have a company and selling them and prospering and doing it your way. And you don't have to worry about being laid off and things like that. So that's what you could do. But you will know what to do because you understand business. Anyway, hopefully that was somewhat helpful. I don't know if that's really what you were looking for, but that's what I'd say about it. Because you sound like you're young. You don't sound like you're 60 or 70 years old. You could tack on these skills and you could spend decades benefiting from them. That's what I'd say. And you will never fall or miss a critical step when you know what you're doing. Okay, let me know if anyone has any questions. We've been doing this for about 40 minutes. I'm here to answer any of your questions about side hustles, entrepreneurship, business, working for yourself, that kind of thing. If anyone has any questions about that, get in the chat. In the meantime, while we're waiting for the questions to roll on in, check out some of my other YouTube channels. I got the Company's Expert 2 and the Company's Expert 3. That's probably the one that more people here would be interested in. Check out my courses. This is the one probably that people here would be interested in, how to learn business. Someone says, how to fake NP or negotiate it. What's NP? Don't use acronyms. I'm talking to people all over the world from every industry. I don't know what acronyms you're using. You're welcome, Ep.108. And it's an intelligent question. I wish you the best of luck, actually. What you want to do or what you were talking about is not stupid. That's something that, people can really succeed at, even now, even under these economic conditions. At the moment, you can succeed with this. It's not a stupid thing. But learn the tools to do it, and they might not pay off like immediately, like in a couple of weeks, but they'll pay off in like a year or more. You know what I mean? They'll also help you in your career. Like if you learn business and you tack it on top of your IT skills, you learn things like business. It'll qualify you to get like management positions and things like this. You'll also learn a few fringe benefits like how to manage money. You won't piss your money away, things like that when you understand it, right? You understand things like finance and stuff like that. So there's a lot of good stuff there. And especially if you're young, learn like a fearsome combination of skills. If you got a technical area of expertise, combine that with things like business, that can really pay off. It enables you to either have a strong corporate career or you could go the entrepreneurial track, right? There's a lot of possibilities. And things like networking are very, very useful too. That's kind of a point of commonality between this world of entrepreneurship and like job search. The way that people have always been hired and always will be hired for the foreseeable future is networking. That's the thing that trumps job search, job listings, job postings, working with recruiters. Most people don't get hired that way. They get hired going through networking. Networking is a very useful skill if you want to succeed as an entrepreneur. Being able to connect with people that can help you, either your customers directly or suppliers, even your competitors, all the players in the industry, all the resources there. Tremendously useful thing, Okay, so NP is notice period of any job. Notice period issue. Well, we're not talking about that. This is a live stream on entrepreneurship. We're not talking about like how to get hired and job postings and quitting a job and all that stuff. We're not talking about jobs. We're talking about entrepreneurship. So last call. Any questions about entrepreneurship? I'll be here for another couple of minutes. If there are any of those, please let me know. I do this live stream every Monday, Side Hustle Ideas. So, and as I said, side hustles are a great way to get into this world, like to put your toe in the water of business and entrepreneurship, but you're not taking tremendous financial risks or personal risks because you're keeping your day job. You're doing this maybe in the evenings or on the weekends, so best of both worlds. It takes a little bit of effort, but if you're bootstrapping and you're doing it as a side hustle, that's the perfect way to do it, in my opinion. You learn, you make all your kind of mistakes the hard way, where like almost like in a sandbox, where it insulates you and you don't blow like your life savings or whatever, you don't blow like $150,000 trying something only to realize that's not the way you do it. You know what I mean? You could either pick up a book where it says, when you try to do this, you don't do it this way, or this could happen, right? You either pick up a book and read that and go, okay, gotcha. Or you don't pick up the book, you don't learn that, you try it yourself, it costs you $150,000 of your own money that you lost, and maybe 9 months of your hard effort to learn that you don't do it that way, or this could happen, right? You learn the easy way or you learn the hard way, which way would you prefer? That's why I advocate people learn as much as they possibly can about business before they do this, or at least the basics. Why learn basic principles the hard way? In people's impatience to get started, they often do this. I don't have time to learn this. I want to get started. So they get started, and then it costs them a lot of money and a lot of pain. And they could have avoided all of that. And I've done both. I've learned a lot of things the easy way. I've learned a few things the hard way, especially in the beginning. You know what I mean? And I've seen a lot of like young people, a lot of students and things. I went back to university and I was teaching this, and I heard like thousands of pitches and, all this kind of stuff. And I've seen students go out and try things and stuff like that. And, some of them pretty damn sharp and they really get the right idea. Others, they make like rookie mistakes, So wouldn't it be great if you're going to make rookie mistakes like everyone does, make them so that they cost you hardly anything. And you can pick yourself up, dust yourself off and try again. And, you haven't blown a lot of money or effort on something, and you do it quickly. You fail after like a month rather than trying something for 2 years and then realizing that it doesn't work. You know what I mean? So anyway, that's what I'd say. There are 15 people here. Thank you for being here. You guys are awesome. I wish you every bit of luck. I don't see any questions really coming in, so we're going to wind this down. I will be back next Monday, same time, with another episode of Side Hustle Ideas. In the meantime, if you want to learn business, there's a lot of resources out there for you. If you want to do that with me, check out that course right there, the $100 MBA, best bang for the buck around if you want to learn business. Link in the description to that course, and also to a video I did about the course. So, you learn how the course works, what you get, all that kind of stuff in the interest of transparency. Check it out. I will be back in a week. I wish you the absolute best of luck, and I'll see you soon. Take care.